So I'm a little warm. My glasses started fogging up as soon as I sat down. So
I lost my AirPods, so I'm squatting in someone's office in 30 Rocks. So hopefully they don't show up during this.
We'll kick you out.
Well, that's what I mean. I think it's somebody that runs O&T for. They're much more important than I am. Whoever's office I'm sitting in. So I'm like, please don't come in on Thursday. Please don't come in on Thursday.
I'm sorry, but I need to be here for. Just keep going. Give me 10. Just 10.
Yeah, my AirPods weren't even showing up where they are. I don't know if they're in New York or New Jersey. So
Are they in Jersey or are they?
I don't know. It says that they were out of the case as of yesterday. So I'm like, I know wherever I put them yesterday after I talked to you, I put them back in the case.
Oh yeah, because you got scared while we were talking. That's right. Somebody like decided to come up behind you.
Yep. That's quite common here.
It's a whole thing. Pause my notifications. I should have worn one of my email shirts. Should have worn one of them.
Well, what?
Sorry, I forgot the paper that had all the things we were going to talk about today. I've been winging it. I was like, oh God.
Run.
But I get to see the magic behind the webinar this morning.
My favorite was with Anne, and we were doing a run through, and they're like, could you move up, down, like up, like could you face like this way? Your head's too high. And I'm like, okay. I'm sorry. I don't know how I'm supposed to be sitting in my chair. Forgive me.
Oh, you have a training on that coming up.
What do I?
Yeah.
How to sit in my chair?
Mm-hmm. You're kidding.
I did that at Apple.
Yeah.
I worked way back when.
Yeah.
Ergonomics.
Yep. Yeah, you'll have an ergonomics, how to set your chair, that your keyboard and arms need to be at 90 degrees.
It's better than when I when I went in the office on Tuesday, the chair was broken. I sat down in it and went whoop, and I was like what happened? Am I like, did I gain a whole bunch of weight? No, the chair was broken. It was literally broken. So yeah. I don't think I ever sit in a chair properly, to be honest. So
you've never been trained.
I've never been trained.
Just like Marketing Cloud. If you're not properly trained, you'll never know.
This is true. I will slap
that segue there, Amanda.
I love it. I'm in the office right now, and my chair is left leaning. It's always just like. Oh. I'm sitting in italics. You are.
All right. Well, can we go ahead? I think we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 5 or 6 after, and people will continue to trickle in, but we got a decent group here. So welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Lookup Answers. Amanda, was I supposed to start or were you supposed to start? She's on mute.
I think you were supposed to start.
Okay. So yes, today we have with us Ann Tomlin and Shawnee Nestigen.
Nesting.
God, I'm gonna get right one of these times. But yes, so they are joining us today to talk to us about all the awesome things you can do in Content Builder with dark mode, accessibility, all the things. Like anything you wanted to know how to do in Content Builder, they can probably answer it for you. And Tomlin comes from us from owning her own company, emails y'all. I have used her a few different times across different companies. So I can vouch that she is one of the people that I would go to for code questions. And then Shawnee just joined my team here at NBC because she also has code that I like. So I brought her in. And now I'm sharing them with you.
It's true.
But yeah, so we can go ahead and hop in. And I guess I will start asking a couple questions here while we wait for other people. If you would have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat or the Q&A area, and then we will share it with them as well. But the first thing I would like to hear about, along with a little bit about yourselves from your intro, is what is your favorite thing to build in email?
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
That's a question.
Yeah. We're getting deep right out the gate.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess the most fun are interactive emails, especially hotspots. I like building those.
Ooh. Okay. I think for me, is weirdly enough, as much as they give me a headache, like heavily dynamic messaging. It's like kind of there's a whole like solutioning, and you're kind of putting a puzzle together, and you're looking at the data you have, and you're trying to create and then on top of that, you're trying to make the visuals work as well in that space. And so it's kind of like this weird, it's similar to interactive. It's kind of this nuanced piece where you're trying to solve a whole bunch of things.
Totally.
And I just get super excited when I can like dig into the data and like I can use that, and I can make this like this version of the message show up, or this version of the message show up. And also just building smartly makes me happy. So instead of trying to support two messages. So yeah.
Totally. Actually just somebody, I have a possible new client, and they were blown away by the fact that they did not have to build 6 messages.
They're like, what? You're like,
oh
yes.
man, I can do it. I can.
Alrighty, and since we probably have people in the audience from all across the board, we're going to start at the basics. And what are some tips that you have on getting started with learning to use Content Builder and building emails and all things? When you were just little baby emailers.
Little baby emailers. I think if you don't have any basic knowledge in the code space, it is getting some basic understanding about just like building tables, because that is a thing. I think you can ask like a front-end developer, but that's not super helpful most of the time, sadly. You're going to want to roll back into the table landscape of the world. And so understanding how to build tables, and that starts with like, it sounds nutty, but reaching out to, if you know somebody in the email community, they can always point you in the right space. But I've used still the W3, is it W3? I can never remember.
W3
school.
Yeah, W3 school. Go there. They show you the semantics of building a table. Some of it you can throw away because they like to put like the T-body tag in half the time, and I never use it. So, but it tells you how to build a table and where you can put your classes and your inline styling, because that are the bigger things that you need to do. Also, use semantic code. That's the biggest thing. It takes a lot of the headache out of it long-term for you, because it helps with accessibility. It also helps with just knowing what type of content you have throughout your message. So that's my tip.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that.
What I said +1.
Also, I guess what my suggestion would be is start with the templates that are given to you by Salesforce, and kind of zhuzh them up. You can do a lot of things with, within Content Builder and within the templates to make yours feel a little bit more special, like some hover techniques, or change your Outlook always ends up showing Times New Roman. So there's a way, as long as you have access to the head, that you can force that change. So there's quite a lot you can do with the tools that you already have.
Yeah. I think one other thing to tack on is understand the content types in Marketing Cloud. They rolled out Code Snippet a bit ago, but most of us came into Salesforce Marketing Cloud using HTML, the HTML content block, which is headachy because it alters your code at times because they add a parent table around all of your content, and Code Snippet doesn't, and it helps you. So think about like how you're setting your content blocks in there and using the right version of it for yourself, because I think they do define it well in just basic documentation of like what each of those content types are and how you should use them. So Code Snippet is also by default if you're just building your own custom code, because then I don't have to override a whole bunch of things. So
absolutely agree.
And we had a question to touch a little more on semantic code.
Yeah, I was just
what they are. Yeah,
to say that. So semantic code is like it's telling the email client the hierarchy of your text. So this is like the H1, H2 paragraph, that type of thing, markup. And it's important to use that for accessibility, not only for it's important to use it not only for being able to have the message read how you expect, but also for screen readers, for people who are using assistive technology. So I mean, basically you use heading tags for headers, paragraphs for for paragraph, or paragraph tags for paragraphs, etc.
Yeah, very much in that line. It also helps take some of the headaches about when you're proofing all of your messages, because mail clients love the semantic code. So versus if you're doing like TD tags and that's all you're doing, you get weird layouts. Outlook is kind of guilty of that one, where it's like, I don't know what to do with this, so I'm gonna do something new with it. And you're like, thanks, that's great. It so very much helps with that kind of readability, and also just when you don't have to override things over and over and over again.
All right, and since we talked about accessibility in this, that's what we're going to pivot into next. So since we work for the Paralympics that's coming up on August 28th, I would like to hear from you two, for everyone else in the world. What are your tips for getting started and the basics that you would have someone include for accessibility to just show, to even start proving out the value for the rest of what they want to do for their leadership and things? Like, what are the minimums that will make people happy? Because I also have a brother with Down syndrome, so I also think about it from his side and interacting with technology. So that accessibility is very near and dear to my heart for Paralympians and my baby brother.
Accessibility is so important. So the first, I guess, things that I would do is definitely use semantic markup, because that does help. But probably I would say using live text is number one in accessibility. What I would suggest you do, like, if nothing else, use live text, because live text will always be read by assistive technology. And if you put your text as part of an image, like it's baked into the image, that text will not be read out at all. And if anybody has images turned off, they won't see that message either. And alt text is for look and feel only. It is not for repeating what's in the image. So it's extremely important to use live text. I'm on my little soapbox here. But it's extremely important to use live text. And a lot of the time we can do text on top of images and such with not very much work. So
I can vouch. If you need to learn how to do it, emails y'all. Go
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we can do a lot of stuff now, so we don't have to rely on text as part of an image. So I would say definitely do that as a number one topic.
Yeah.
Although I just put up 2 fingers.
Doubly number one.
Doubly number one. Yeah. In that line, no content within an image. Work with your designers, push them away from that idea of like, they're like, it's super simple. No, like live text, it's a big part. Push your, like, whoever you're working with, either for the company you work with or you as an individual, if you're a contractor, freelancer, if you're not the one controlling the design, make sure you're talking it through of the reasons why not to do all image emails. Live text should be king. Alt tags should be in place for look and feel. The base level is also, when you're coding, there is a role attribute that you should always be including, because that helps the screen reader know when to skip something and not read out the whole thing. Because if it's set as a display only, it's not going to do all the weird stuff that it can do if you don't put it in place. I'm trying to, one other tip I can think of is also try to limit the amount of tables you use. That's that it's an easy like path to go down, is like, I'm just going to control everything with the tables, because the more you put, the more complex the like read through happens. So, yeah.
I'm also going to throw in there, because I'm starting to see it. I am a fan, if you are going to use a lot of image heavy emails, to put the label that describes it at the bottom of the image.
Yep.
Like, there's enough junk in there that people aren't reading that it's not going to hurt you to put that little label of like, what is it? Simone Biles falling off of the beam during finals. Like, someone can't see it, but they can imagine what that looks like. Just from hearing
be descriptive, especially if you're working with content people. Make sure that that's also part of like the layout for your content requests, is that alt tags are included, as well as labeling for any imagery. You can, as a like, easily take that step as a like, if you're building those things, to take that next step. But it also is helpful if there's something specific that they want to say in those spaces. Because labels can
sending them a proof with some silly stuff on that label. They're like, oh, I really should update that.
Yeah, that too. So I put weird things in, so for placeholders. So yeah,
awesome.
For I mean, I have so many tips.
Do it all. Like said,
another one, I'm sure, I mean, Shani and I have talked about this so many times. We could talk forever on this topic. But one of the, another important thing is to actually left align your paragraphs. Your headlines, totally center.
Go for it.
Great, go for it.
Go for
it. People with vision differences, especially those with dyslexia, it's not as easy for them to read center aligned text as a block of text.
Yeah.
So like I said, headline, totally fine, but a block of text, you need to left align it. It's
paragraph of text. Yes, definitely. You want to, if it is a sentence or a short phrase, you're fine. But anything beyond that, it's just, it causes a lot of readability issues and all that. And then in conjunction with that, look at your line height. Please set it. Do not just go off the default. You want to create more like breathability between those lines, because or else they crunch, and people also have issues reading that way.
White space is your friend.
It is. Too much sometimes can be a lot.
Yeah.
The right amount hits that note perfectly. So.
All right, and we have multiple requests to hear more about live text over an image. Resources, or you want to give some tips? But yeah, we have multiple questions that people would love to hear more.
Okay.
There's a few struggles. So
yeah. So the I mean, I can always, if y'all want to email me or DM me or whatever, that's cool. I mean, it would be a whole lot easier for me to just like explain it with a thing. But anyway, you basically put a background image on a TD, and then you have to use a special language for Outlook, which is called VML, Vector Markup Language. And that allows you to, to have it work in desktop Outlooks. So those two, inside of those two structures, you put your text and style it how you want it to be, and etc. But yeah, it's totally possible and easy, and it works in all major email clients, all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would suggest if you want a code snippet or something like that, probably either look it up or DM me.
It's true. It doesn't make sense when you first do it. So you have to structure it correctly, or else like you'll get double ups of everything, especially in Outlook. So if you don't set the VML correctly, you'll get this weird, like, you'll feel like you've gone a little cuckoo because you're seeing like doubling of all of your like background imagery and everything. So you have to be kind of cautious when you're doing it. So very much look up a snippet of it because it helps with semantics.
And if I'm remembering correctly, it's Outlook 2016 and on, that if you put an image on top of a background image, it kind of freaks out.
Yep.
So you have to use you have to use columns to create white space when you do that. But that's really the only like kind of downside to it. So it's pretty easy once you know what you're doing.
Yeah. I think in that line of like buttons, please do not make buttons images, make live buttons. There's a lot of tutorials on making bulletproof buttons. I've also found that there is a glitch if you try to do VML with buttons, it causes some like friction. So if you have border radius on your buttons, it is fine if they do not round in Outlook, because border radius is not supported in Outlook. Let it go. It is fine. I know that if you're working with a graphic designer, they're going to be hardcore about wanting border radius everywhere. It is fine if it doesn't work in Outlook. It does not take away from the experience. It is fine, but it's better that your button works functionally consistently. And so that's the other tip for accessibility, is that it reads the href. It does it very well. The button is the button and it's live text, so they know what it's supposed to be. And label it. Please label it, because it helps. So
yeah, totally. I completely agree with the CTAs. I mean, that's the whole point of your email, right? Is to drive them to your website. So you need to provide an easy way for for them to do that. One other thing that's accessibility related with CTAs is you want to make your CTAs full width on mobile, because some people may not be able to use one thumb or whatever. You want to be able to have them tap with whatever finger is most useful for them. So definitely full width in mobile.
Yeah, unless you have a copywriter who likes to do more than 3 words in their CTA. Then don't bother. It's fine. I love them, but I was like, at one point I was like, okay, best practice, 3 words and under, please. And it was like, I think one of our CTAs was like 5 words. And I was like, oh God, this is not great. Cause then it's stacks and mobile. So you're just like, never mind. I'm going to pull the class on that, because it just.
And if you can make it a little bit descriptive within those 3 words, it's much better than
yes.
Like, they're shopping now, or they're viewing a document.
No more click here, guys. No more learn more.
Yeah.
You need it to be, descriptive of where that person is going.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because I think you get inundated, especially if you have like a newsletter where there's more than one CTA in there. Be descriptive of where you're taking them, especially if they're going to a specific spot. It also helps for QA in the long run too, because you should know where, if you have a whole bunch of learn more or click here's, sometimes you're not 100% certain where you're clicking or where it's supposed to go to. So yeah, taking headaches out of the way, helpful. Like, it takes some of your time debt out of the way if you're like doing some smart things in front of it. So
yeah. And taking that even further to links, and I'm going to be really unpopular right now, is your links need to look like links. They need to be underlined. That is from the beginnings of the internet. Everybody knows that a link is underlined. If you bold it, bolding is used for emphasis.
Yep. Italics, emphasis.
Changing the color, is also, people are colorblind. They might not be able to see that. So the only surefire way you are going to have people know that they're supposed to click on something or a text link is to underline it.
Yep.
And if anybody wants a great example of accessibility being used on the web to give you ideas to pivot over to email, the Colorado Springs U.S. Olympics Museum and Training Center has a whole plugin where it has underlined links that you can click a button on their website, and it will do it across the whole website. It will let you make the font bigger. It will let you make the font a different color. It will let you make everything for colorblind. It's a really cool plugin. I've never seen it on any other site, but when I was researching for the Olympics, I saw it, and we will be adding that to all of our pages before the 2026 Winter Olympics.
Awesome.
So yeah, if you need inspiration, go check out the Colorado Springs Olympics Museum and Training Center and support Team USA at the same time. And then tune into the Paralympics on the 28th.
Great ad.
Now we're going to pivot over to my nightmare, especially with Outlook, dark mode. So yes, for those of you, now that we've done accessibility, the next thing is getting it into the inbox, and then those younglings have it on dark mode and it doesn't look right. So what are some tips to optimize for dark mode? So like I know you're really good at targeting like certain ones. Like Ann knows all the ones that I'm like, Ann, this looks like crap over here. So use this code over here. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Well, there's a limited amount of things you can do to help dark mode. So I always, at any time, I preface all of my clients, saying, okay, dark mode's going to look awful. Just be aware. Like, I'm going to do what I can, but dark mode is awful and I can't do anything about it. Yeah, but
it is what it is. It's kind of, that's
what you can do though, is so Apple Mail and iOS Mail, you have full control over that. So if you use the dark mode media query, full control. You can, make it look however you want. I would still suggest that you keep a dark, theme, because you don't ever want to go against what the subscriber has already told you they want. So if they have dark mode on, they want a darker experience.
Yeah.
So don't use the dark mode media query in Apple and iOS as a platform to go ahead and make it look exactly the same as light.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't
don't just
don't. And then there are some hacks that we can do for Outlook and desktop Outlook, and it makes a difference.
It does make a difference. It is a difference.
Yeah.
It's very much that. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. And Gmail, we can do a couple things. In those, there are a couple hacks out there that you can do to keep white text white in Gmail and Outlook or desktop Outlook. You can force black text to be black on Outlook, and you can force like a background color in Gmail, using is it a linear gradient, Shawnee?
Yeah, I think it's linear gradient.
I think it's linear gradient from the same.
What is that?
Yeah, and the color is the same on each side, but that forces a background color in Gmail. So you can do that. All of this, though, I would say use sparingly. Just keep in mind that people are, have dark mode on for a reason, and we always want to, respect our subscribers.
Yeah.
Sorry. Wow. I just.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also understanding what is full support, i.e., iOS, Apple Mail, and understanding what is partial support, because it'll take a lot of the headache out of it for you. There are certain things like your colors will turn funky. That is just, there's no overriding it, especially in partial support. So be careful the colors you're choosing, because sometimes they will turn horrendous. I worked at Target previous to moving to NBC, and our Target red would turn this weird peachy color, and there was nothing we could do about it, and it was our primary color. And I think it's thinking about that design, because I don't think we thought about it initially, for like nobody thought about it until dark mode started to kind of hack at your like design aesthetic. So be conscientious of, if you have leeway, make sure you're choosing things. Also, logo markups and everything, look at how they look in dark mode. Do they get lost or do they stand out? So always design with that idea, and work with your designers to look at both light mode and dark mode, because that'll help in the long run. And then especially when you're looking at who you're targeting, is understanding if a large percentage of your subscribers or customer base is in Gmail, you really want to pay attention to your design, because you're not going to have as much leeway to control it. If a heavy amount of them are in iOS and Apple Mail, you'll be happy. But you want to make sure that you're understanding where people are opening things, because if you can possibly understand those numbers, it helps that in the long run.
So a trick that I use with my clients is, so I ask them first thing, please send me your style guide so I can take all of your colors. And what I'll do is I'll create just little boxes of the colors, of the brand colors, and then run a litmus test or an email on acid test, and then show them to prepare them for what is going to happen.
Smart.
Because if you prepare them, beforehand, then they'll think about the design and stuff to make it look better. But that is a trick to, help people understand what is happening in dark mode, and what email clients are doing, to your colors, because there's only a partial invert and there's a full invert. Yep. And depending, the email client you're using is, it depends on, oh my God, I can't talk today. Anyway, different email clients use.
Okay, we're all friends here.
Yeah, different email clients use different dark mode techniques.
It is, yeah.
To change your stuff.
Weirdly, yeah, I've weirdly also seen dark mode affect actual images. It's an odd thing, but it happens. So I think the key I've taken off of, especially working with dark mode, is testing is king. QA is king, and you want to look at it in all environments, not just in the ones you think you need to look at. So make sure your support, have in any client or any device you're using for your testing, make sure you're turning on dark mode and have all the dark mode aspects available, so you can see things and not assume. Never assume, people. Never assume.
Agree.
All right, so now we're going to step back to, where'd this question go? Somebody had a question about, here it is. So, Anne, when you were talking about, actually, you both talked about buttons. Sorry. Sorry. So can you explain how would you explain to designers who want to use images as buttons because they just consider the alt text the reason it's okay to not do it?
Why would I, or how would I explain it?
Yeah, so why shouldn't we use images as buttons, basically? If you're going to go, how would you present that to your designers?
Accessibility.
This goes back to live.
The designer doesn't care about accessibility, Shawnee. You know that.
I'm going to make them care.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to live text.
Yeah.
The only way you will ever be sure that your subscribers will see your text is by using live text.
Yeah.
That is the only way that for absolute sure that they will will understand what the CTA is.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's also, I have a boss that lives out in the countryside, and so he never has his emails download images very fast. So every time he opens it, he texts me and he goes, "Is this email broken?" And I'm like, "No, get on your Wi-Fi in your house, Rick." That's another reason. It's just because you have super fast Wi-Fi where you are doesn't mean that everyone does.
Exactly.
He lives in like just outside of New York City in Connecticut. So like,
Yeah.
there's really no reason besides that it's Spectrum.
Yeah, I think that's the big part is the thing you have to consider again is like you can't get
curious too. Like there's so many people on their phones, images gonna be the last thing to download.
Yeah, you can never guarantee how quick somebody's gonna be able to view your message. And that's an old school guideline too. That is like early web guidelines. Lessen the amount of images so you have a quick load. The less images you have in a message, the quicker it loads, the quicker your message gets to your subscriber or customer, and the quicker they can interact with it. So lessening it, and that buttons are a big thing, is that you want them to click as quickly as possible. So taking away, because we all know like you only get a certain percentage of their attention. So if they're waiting for something to load, unless it's some sale that they really want to like interact with, you're not going to keep them very long. So making sure that message loads as quickly as possible is like thinking about how much imagery you're using in your message and where can you take away from the imagery and leverage color, background, some of the CSS styling, because that loads quick versus loading a whole bunch of image.
Absolutely. Y'all, so I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat. That is a link to how to do a background image. I happen to have that saved. So
briefly go off topic because I've had a couple of comments I see about Anne's shirt. And Anne actually owns a company that makes these shirts. So if you all want to buy them, let's let Anne plug her a super awesome email shirt theme.
Do it.
Yes. All right. I have
talking about email building
super quick emailloot.com. It's just a cute little store, has some email, t-shirts and mugs and stuff that are specifically for email related or people in email.
Yes.
So that's it.
We love our swag.
It's like people want to know where Anne's shirt is from. So we're just real quick and
we love our swag. I mean, swag. I've got oodles and oodles of stickers and t-shirts and
there are stickers there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got stickers and I've got a coffee mug. So it's just I'm in New York and they're at home. So
yes.
All righty. So now we are going to go to another one that I get a lot of questions about. If a company can't afford or doesn't want to purchase a email on acid or a litmus tool, does that keep people from render testing?
No. God, no. We didn't have those tools to begin with when you first got into email. So there's a lot of ways to do it without it costing a lot of money. I mean, base level, and I can remember early days, especially even when we started going to Litmus, a lot of people were not aware of like ways to test outside of like having a platform. Open a whole bunch of email accounts. It's super easy. They're free typically. Use your work one. Also leverage, like if you have other devices like at home naturally, like start doing that. And then I guess my thing is I then leveled up to going on eBay or resellers and buying older devices to use to do all my QA testing. A lot of people I know in the space have like device libraries that they use and leverage because you don't know if your grandma Ethel is going to be opening it on a super old iPhone or she has the fastest one because her daughter decided to get her a new one. So there's no guarantee. That's my storyline. Like think about it in that aspect. You want to make sure that you're meeting people where they are, not where you want them to be. And
Absolutely.
So base level, open a whole bunch of email accounts. It's super easy and free. And then you can also share those with your team if it's more than just you, and go that route. And you send them all to the same inbox. It helps.
Even NBC wasn't too good to text an email specialist dad who had an Android and ask him to send us a screenshot when no one else had an Android in the office. So
I used to put out requests, via Twitter to people. Hey, does anybody have a X device that has X, email client on it? Remember that very well.
Yeah. Ask your community, ask your family, friends if that.
Well, just 2 weeks ago, we're doing an Android rendering that we had to text one of the email specialists for the Olympics and be like, "Can you have your dad check the email on his phone for us, please?"
Yeah.
Not all testing services have the same, tests. So,
and sometimes you get a false positive or a false negative.
Exactly.
It always helps to see it live. I will say that with any email on acid or litmus, it does very much help to see some of those lives, especially when you're seeing weird bugs. Because I found that when I open it in a device, then it's like, oh, that's not an issue. It was just a slow render, or that's actually not the issue. It's another thing that's causing the issue. So it's really like, do the footwork for it. And if you can get buy-in, I think you can get super like older Androids for pretty cheap on eBay. I have a few, like I've got like a base level, I've got like a iOS tablet, and I've got a Android tablet, and I've got a phone. And I mean, personally, I have a Apple phone, so I just use my phone as a testing device typically. And then make sure you have other client or the apps installed on your mobile devices. And then in like on desktop, then you can usually install like Thunderbird, which I don't know if that's still a thing or not. I don't use it naturally, but Outlook, Apple Mail, make sure you're opening in those spaces. So getting a better look at it, especially if you can get like an older version of an OS in one of your device areas, or in one of your devices, or on an old laptop. Because we all know we have that family member that has a super old PC laptop or an old Apple that can't be upgraded to the newest OS. And they're like, I'm seeing this weird. And you're like, why? Oh, that's why. So yeah. That's why.
Alrighty. And then along those lines, what are some of your favorite building and troubleshooting tools to go along with email development?
Well, I can go first. I would, of course, say parcel.io. That is what I choose to code in. It was a kind of coding platform that was specifically created to, for email developers. So it has extra tools and things like that that make doing my job a little bit easier. So not only do they offer that platform, but they also have some excellent articles as well, for learning more about email code.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use that one, and then once I put the AMP script in, then I put it over into VS Code, because then they have the AMP script plugin that you can use for their syntax.
And it's kind of nice actually that if you put liquid in there, it will not cause an error like it will in most code editors. If you put some scripting languages in there, it'll be like, oh, that's a scripting language, whatever.
Oh, whatever.
As opposed to, oh my God, freak out.
Yeah.
What is this? We don't know what this is, type of thing.
Figure out what works for you. I think that's the thing. I take that with I think every team I've worked with is when it's been outside of just me. You do not all have to do it the same way. That's my big tip, is when you're working with others, however you code and can do your job efficiently is how you do it. So I still use either Sublime Text. I also, because I get very distracted if I'm in a browser. So I try to remove that as a distraction for myself. So I will still, everybody is always shocked. I still use Dreamweaver because usually I want to see a visual render very quickly. And that helps me like keep focused on what I'm doing.
I have all three on my computer, depending on what I want to do.
AMP script is more of a feel sometimes. VS Code helps, but sometimes it's just logistically when you're learning it, it helps. Because
it's Sublime Text is just great when you're tired.
Yeah. You're like, yeah. Those are my tips. Like, just do it how it works for you. Don't like let somebody else tell you how you should do it. If you feel like it doesn't work for you, everybody was very into Litmus Builder, and I just get distracted in browsers. So I like things to be on my desktop. So I'm very focused where I'm at, and that helps me keep keep going in a project. So also, if you're between Wi-Fi, so some like those platforms are kind of sometimes hard to use when you're like in transit and you're trying to work on something. So because we all know that airline Wi-Fi sucks. So like don't try to use something that's heavy on the like loading piece. Like find your backup. Even Notepad, please use plain text if you can't afford but Sublime Text is free. There's a number of code editors that are free, and Sublime Text, there's like packets you can install. So you can get some better syntax in there. But use plain text. Do not use Word, for God's sakes. Please don't use Word. Please just don't.
Please.
And I think also makes you a better coder if you know how to build things from the ground up. So like it's great for time savings at a certain point, but when you're troubleshooting and you don't know how something was built, that causes you a headache. And I've met a number of people that I've helped move away from that whole, like I used like an engine that just built it for me. I was like, you need to know how it is built. That is the biggest tip. Always know how things are built, where they can break, where they possibly can cause friction and like with you when you're like testing things and you get in weird layouts or your AMP script's not going well. That type of thing is know how things are built is also that big thing.
Yeah. A quick addition to that would be use code notes. Please, for the person who comes after you, please use code notes and tell people where things start and end, and how to actually use the code that you have. So it's really helpful to have
not a paragraph, not a paragraph.
Not a paragraph.
That is where documentation comes into play. If you need to write paragraphs of notes about things, that goes in a separate document, and you just note it in your comments in your code, please, because I don't need a novel in my email, because we also all know that there's a certain limit to your file size in your email. So please be aware when you're putting comments in, keep them short as possible and sweet, and that they're descriptive so they're useful. So
yeah, Gmail will still cut off your email because your notes are too long.
You know, very little content thing. If you've ever seen that, like that's
makes your heart hurt a little bit. You're just like, oh, like
it renders 102 kilobytes and then done.
So yeah,
including notes. This is one I've not been asked before. So what are tips for someone redesigning a newsletter that was done in another ESP and needs to be recreated in Marketing Cloud?
Ooh.
Interesting.
That's why I'm like, I've never been asked this one, but you do have to think about that.
I've done it. I've had to do it. I went from MailChimp to Marketing Cloud. I needed to I went back to bare bones, essentially. That's the sad part. You kind of have to start a little bit from scratch. Some of your base content blocks are fine, but if you need to re-render or you're trying to more operationalize and strategize how you're leveraging the new platform, you have to like look at the things you're trying to solve with a new platform and go from there. If it's just the same for same, you just want to like look at how you're building those things and if there's any deficiencies or differences between the new ESP and the old ESP, because that is usually where your headaches, like if you have to change out like personalization tags or they have different syntax for certain like dynamic approaches, like you need to look at those things to know where you need to make those changes, because those are usually the thing that takes you the most time, versus if you're basic, you're not really redoing like the full table, you may be changing colors and some imagery. Your structure can stay the same, but you're just changing visuals. So looking at how big of a thing, if you're full-blown redesigning, that is going to take time no matter what. So there's no getting around it, because you're changing the whole look and feel. So you're going to have to rebuild no matter what. But I always suggest if you're moving to a new ESP, look at what it supports and how you can approach your build like in a more efficient way as much as possible. But how can you leverage the bells and whistles of that platform as best as you can?
Absolutely, man. Excellent answer.
Thank you. I've done it a few times, so that's the like lesson I've learned over a few times is like
that's a gold medal answer.
Thank you.
Alrighty, and we only have 10 minutes left. Wow, this went by fast. Okay, I want to get into dynamic content because I know that once we get through all the coding and things, then they're like, that's great. Let's make it more advanced. Let's zhuzh it up now, as Shani said. So what are some tips that you have to get started on dynamic content and leveraging dynamic content?
Data.
Yeah. I mean, you need data in order for it to work.
You can't make dynamic content without the data. And so I think, Anne, is what, like hand in hand, you have to understand that data. What you can use, what is reliable. I think like at base level, I always think about conditional in Salesforce. Like, what is your conditional logic look like? What is your default? There should always be a default in play. because I think it's so easy to just do if and if else, and then you have no default, and then you're like, well, somebody's just going to get empty, and that's fine if something just needs to turn off. But if you're trying to tree through like content pieces, like you're like, so most of the like our customers are going to get this, and then these other ones are going to get this. Well, what about the people who don't meet either one of those things? Or if data could break, like if I get an empty value all of a sudden, what will somebody get that meets the criteria? That is generic enough that we're not talking specifically about something, but understand your data and working with your data partners is a big thing. And it's a headache at times. I'm not going to lie, because they're in a whole different mindset than you are when you're thinking about how you can use it. But they're your best resource to understanding what is like reliable, what is an issue in their data payloads, and all that. And if you are the data person, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm not trying to be a pain, but like it's easy when it's a basic table. If you can set that up, it's great. But if it's like complex data pieces that you're getting fed to you, it creates a lot more problems at times, I found. So, but yeah, the base level entry point is like understanding your data for dynamic content.
And I would think like lookup rows is probably one of the more basic AMP script things you're going to need to know in order to make dynamic content.
Yeah. And if there's not data cleanup happening, I've made a lot of decision blocks in Salesforce to create my own base Boolean attributes. It helps because then you're cleaning up something and making a simple thing versus a complex redundancy, complex AMP script piece, and it becomes reusable. Decision blocks I found are super reusable across, especially if your data, there's shared data attributes across multiple messages. You can use it across multiple emails that you're sending out. At Target, I was doing a lot of stuff about bags. We're going to go with that base level. Like we had bag fees, and we had, if somebody said no to bags, like if you were shopping or getting a pickup order, like in some states you can say, I don't want any bags. And
I never got that option.
They're rolling it out. They were testing before I left, but giving options. Also, if you're in a state that doesn't like allow you, Hawaii does not allow you to have like bags at the store. So you have to bring your own bags. And we need to support that for the full of Target. So we created decision blocks to know what stores to look at, either location or store numbers, to turn on a message saying, hey, remember your bags. So like, because you don't always get clean data. So creating your own like variation of that to create a simpler thing that you can use as a flag across things helps. It's a little complex, but it is similar to like a lookup row. We used a lot of feeds. So it was parsing through the feed. So yeah.
Awesome.
And yes, AMP script guide helps you. Use it. Yeah.
I love that site. Yeah, I use it so much.
You can use the Marketing Cloud support stuff, but I prefer the AMP script guide because it has the search bar. It has the exact same examples as
it's user friendly. It's user
friendly. So it has the exact same examples as the support portal, but it's more user friendly.
Yeah. For anybody,
I'm dyslexic, so where Anne was saying like the left align and things, like all of that comes into play for me. So even, especially with code, like I need where I can adjust it the easiest and read it.
Because anybody early days when it was exact target and you get dumped into it and somebody's like, go read the documentation, and then you're like, what does that mean? Like that was a lot of my questions out loud. I was like, well, okay, you told me what I need to do with it, but what is that next step? What does it look like? How can I leverage it? Some of it is still, you'll have to figure out how you can, because you can interlace some of the functions with like lookup rows or like parsing an XML feed or parsing JSON. You can use those other functions within it, but you need to know what the limit is. And
we can answer all that on How to Slack.
Yeah, in Exact Target or Salesforce Marketing Cloud. But it's very much written by developers, and it is problematic when you're trying to just understand the basics of it. And AMP script guide takes a lot of it out of it for you, because they give you really good examples of like, you do this and this is what it looks like. You get this data bit, this is what you can use, and this is what the AMP script will look like if you're using these pieces. And you're like, oh, gotcha.
And here's how it runs out.
Yep, this is how it renders out.
Time one where all the different time conversions, I use that one all the time. I can't remember all the different ways you can convert time to display. And they'll show me all of them in one spot.
Also, my key is like anything to do with time is also it's going to be
the time date. That's what I mean. Like all those formatting.
You're just like, oh, like no. When somebody wants to do logic on time, no, that's my other thing. If somebody's like, I got a great idea, we'll look at what the time is. I was like, you understand that there's a lot of problems with that. Like,
I just did that yesterday.
Yeah,
yesterday.
It gives you a headache, and you're just like, so
yeah.
I needed to share that with everybody. It's a pain. Every time somebody has a bright idea with it, and I'm like, do we have a base resource library for this? No. Okay, we're just going off of what we're getting. That's not helpful. And ISO timestamps don't work very well in Salesforce Marketing Cloud because they convert based on whatever your account is set at. It's great. Super great. That's mine.
All right, we got 3 minutes left. Is there anything that I missed that you want to get on your soapbox and tell the world about email before we call it a day?
Well, I'd like to plug my my beginner email developer course.
Yes.
So if you are interested in learning how to code, I did make a beginner course on the fundamentals, and you can find that at emailsyall.com.
And I even send my emailers to that beginner course because NBC is real good at hiring people with zero email experience. So
Thank you.
Except for me.
You got to teach them, Shawnee. I ran out of time to teach. That's why we brought you in. Go teacher.
Leverage the community. I think that's the thing. I always learn new things. Even if you take Anne's beginner course, but there's always going to be things you learn. And personally and professionally, I've made a lot of friends and cohorts that I will lean on if I'm like, I'm trying to do this thing. Very much I will push this every single time. Reach out to people. This community, being in email is murky, and the best way to like clear it up is like asking the question. There is no question too small because I don't assume that everybody knows everything because you don't know what they've experienced in the email space. So it's very much that. Like there's the Slack channel for this group, but there's also the Email Geek Slack channel, and it is a very open community, and they will always like be open to talking. I mean, there's bad actors everywhere, but you know, there are also find your people. I like Anne's my people, Corinna's my people. Like there's a slew of people that I know I can go and ask the question and they'll be like, oh yeah, I've done that, blah 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 blah, and you're like, great, thank you, that's what I needed.
Yep.
So.
I did that just yesterday. I needed help with some AMP scripts. And
yeah, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, guys. Like, you're never too senior to ask for help.
No, never. Don't think you are. You're not going to know everything, even especially in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Somebody's done some wacky things and they're like, yeah, I've done that. And you're like, great.
Yep. Oh, I'm real good at breaking Marketing Cloud. Yep. I was married to one of the architects for 18 years. Well, I'm still married to him, but he was an architect of Marketing Cloud for 18 years. So I would get real good at breaking things, and he'd be like, can you not? That's not how we built this to work. And I'd be like, nope, you need to fix it. Not my problem.
Oh, man, you are fighting the good fight for us.
Nope. But yeah,
But yeah, definitely reach out. Yeah, reach out. I'm in Email Geek Slack channel. You can find me on LinkedIn.
And in how to.
And on how to. Like you can. I'm always happy to help answer a question, or if you're getting started that you just want to understand, like, hey, is this where I should start? And you're like, yeah.
We have all those Marketing Cloud MVPs that Salesforce cherishes deeply. Like, yeah. They're all in our how-to and they love to help.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the time, everyone. I can't believe we went through a full hour.
I know.
You're all amazing. All right. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Yes, feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.